Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Municipality of Thames Centre Council. The date is January 27th, 2025, and the time is 5 p.m., and I'm calling this meeting to order. I don't believe there are any additions to the agenda, none. So a mover and a seconder that to approve the January 27th meeting agenda as circulated. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Lockie, all in favor? Thank you, that carries. Discussion, I'm sorry, disclosure of pecuniary interest was submitted by Chantal Crockett, and she is not here this evening anyway, so. In terms of announcements, I would like to offer council and the municipalities congratulations to the recipients of the His Majesty King Charles III coronation medals to three very outstanding and well-deserving members of our community, Betty Crockett, Jean Davis, and Dick Newland. So our congratulations to all of them on this achievement. Any other announcements that council might want to make? Deputy Mayor Smybert.
Great, thank you. So the Accessibility and Inclusivity Advisory Committee has provided direction to commence a public survey to obtain some feedback and suggestions on accessible and inclusivity items and/or concerns. And I just wanted to let everyone know that this public survey will be launched this week, hopefully tomorrow, if all goes well. And we encourage as many residents to participate in that survey to help Thames Centre to become a more inclusive and accessible municipality for all. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Smybert. Move on then to the planning public meeting. So a mover and a seconder that council adjourn its regular meeting at 5:01 p.m. and move into public meetings pursuant to the Planning Act to consider applications listed on the January 27th, 2025 regular council agenda. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So the first item, 6.1, is the consent application B17-24, Plover Mills Commodities Limited applicant. The property address is 22372 and 23364 Welburn Road, County Road number 27. And Aaron, nice to meet you, Aaron. How are you? Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So this first application before the committee this evening, again, is for 23372 and 23364 Welburn Road. The application is for a severance to sever a parcel of land, and this is for a resident surplus to the needs of a farming operation, and this is in result of a farm consolidation. The subject property is 31.5 hectares in size. It's situated on the east side of Welburn Road, or County Road 27, and just south of the hamlet of Welburn. The farm contains two single detached residential dwellings, several agricultural buildings, as well as a commercial grain elevator operation. The remainder of the lands are used for agricultural purposes in the form of crop production. The property is separated by a CN rail line that runs sort of north-south across the, maybe not the center, but across the property. And this is a municipal drain as well. There's a tail end of a municipal drain, which is regulated by the Conservation Authority. So the lands to be severed would contain one of the single detached dwellings. This would be 23372 Welburn Road. This was proposed to have a frontage of approximately 89 meters and an area of approximately 0.63 hectares. The lands also contain two small sheds as well as a bank barn. And the dwelling is privately serviced, of course, with well and septic. The lands to be retained have a frontage of approximately 371 meters and an area of 30.9 hectares. And this would contain the other single detached dwelling, known municipally as 23364 Welburn Road, as well as a detached accessory building and a commercial grain elevator operation. And I would note too that The zoning is a little bit unique on the property. It does encapsulate the sort of rural industrial use. It has its own zoning category, and then the remainder is just agricultural. So the provincial policy statement, county official plan, and local official plan all permit lot creation in the agricultural area for this type of severance, being a surplus farm dwelling severance. The house is at least 10 years old. It is habitable. And the lot itself has been kept to a minimum to contain the house, accessory building, and the private services that are required for it. So staff are satisfied that the criteria of those documents have been met. The lands to be severed, again, would contain the single detached dwelling and several accessory buildings, and would qualify under the undersized agricultural lot provisions of the A zone. So I do want to note that typically with a surplus farm dwelling severance, we require a rezoning to ensure that the remainder of the farmlands would not have a house in the future. However, in this case, it does already contain a house. So that by nature of itself sort of negates the requirement to have a rezoning. So it's not listed as one of the conditions of this consent, but it is usually standard for these types of severances. So the application was circulated as per the requirements of the Planning Act. Being that it is on a county road, the county engineer requires a land dedication of up to 18 meters from the center line of construction of the road to the new property line, and that is across both the severed and retained. And that is, of course, if it is not already to that width, the applicant's surveyor would have to demonstrate whether or not it meets that requirement. The drainage superintendent advised that a reassessment will be required, and a condition has been added for that. And as well, the chief building official is requiring that a land surveyor demonstrate that all structures conform with applicable zoning provisions. They provide demonstration that the well and septic system are wholly contained on the lot, and that the agricultural building that is remaining on the residential property, it meets residential standards or has a change of use permit issued, and that is just to ensure that as it is now just a residential property, we are maintaining the code requirements for that. So my recommendation this evening is approval subject to the 10 conditions outlined in my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Erin. Is there any additional information from the applicant? No, okay, thank you. Any questions from the public who might be in the chambers? I'm not seeing anyone. No one online?
There's no one online, Your Worship.
Okay, then. If that's the case, then are there any questions on this application from the members of council? Appears there are none. Okay. So if there is no further discussion, we will close the public meeting. And do I have a mover and a seconder to recommend the motion to approve consent application B17-24, subject to the 10 conditions as appended to the agenda? Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman, all in favor? Okay. Thank you. That closes. Thank you very much, Erin. Okay, we'll be moving on to item number 6.2 on your agenda, a zoning bylaw amendment application Z17-24. Jeffrey Eric Bushel and Samantha Lynn Bushel as applicants. Jeffrey Eric Bushel, agent, and the property address is 2470 Cromarty Drive. And Alana, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to rezone the subject property from the agricultural A zone to a site-specific agricultural A-67 zone to add small animal crematorium as an additional permitted use on the property. So the subject lands are a 42.36 acre farm located on the northeast corner of Elgin Road and Cromarty Drive. And the lands contain a single detached dwelling, a barn used for boarding horses, and a shed. And the lands are used for primarily agricultural purposes, including field crop cultivation and the boarding of horses. The lands are designated agricultural, natural area, and protection area, and they're zoned agricultural, environmental protection, and wetland according to Thames Center zoning bylaw. The lands also contain natural heritage features, including significant woodlands recognized by the Middlesex Natural Heritage System study, as well as provincially significant wetlands. So the applicants are seeking to establish a small animal crematorium business to accommodate small farm animals and pets under 200 pounds to operate out of an existing livestock building, being the barn that's used to board horses, which is otherwise not permitted. And this zoning bylaw amendment is being sought as the proposal did not meet the Thames Center zoning bylaw for agricultural home occupation criteria. And this is because the criteria doesn't allow for a home occupation to be located within an agricultural building. So the proposed small animal crematorium would be located within a separate room of the horse barn. And the crematorium room also contains a kiln, which is used for creating keepsakes and glazed paw prints. And a small monitoring station is also located in the same general area as the crematorium in a separate room, which contains a computer that monitors the emissions and the functionality of the units. And the cremation business would involve the applicants retrieving the animals from local veterinarians and other clients to be brought to the property to be cremated. And the applicants have obtained an environmental compliance approval, or an ECA, from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks to allow for the natural gas-fired pet cremation units and a cremains processor. So according to the provincial planning statement, permitted uses in prime agricultural areas include agricultural uses, agricultural related uses, and on-farm diversified uses. And that proposed on-farm diversified use criteria may be based on provincial guidance or municipal approaches set out in municipal planning documents. So the County of Middlesex official plan allows for on-farm diversified uses subject to criteria, and that's including criteria that's indicated in the guidelines on permitted uses in prime agricultural areas as set out by OMAFRA, now known as the Ontario Ministry of Food and Agribusiness. And Thames Center's official plan does not currently contain policies that speak to OFDUs, as the current official plan predates the provincial guideline document. So as noted in the report, staff have evaluated the proposal against the on-farm diversified use criteria noted in the guideline, being that the use is located on a farm, is secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property, is limited in area, and includes but is not limited to home occupations, home industries, agritourism uses, and uses that produce value-added agricultural products. And lastly, the use shall be compatible and shall not hinder surrounding agricultural operations. Additionally, as required by the Thames Center official plan, the zoning bylaw amendment was evaluated against the criteria within the official plan that is used when a zoning bylaw amendment is applied for. So overall, when it comes to the on-farm diversified use criteria, staff is of the opinion that the criteria has been satisfied and that the proposal can be considered an on-farm diversified use. When it comes to the zoning bylaw amendment criteria, staff is of the opinion that the criteria has been met, and staff do not anticipate unacceptable adverse effects on surrounding uses, as the proposed use would be located within an existing farm building. It meets the OFDU criteria, and furthermore, the applicant has received the ECA from the ministry for the pet cremation units. So the applicant is required to follow the terms and conditions of the ECA, which speaks to different matters such as operating parameters, emission concentration limits, and noise. So based on the foregoing, staff is of the opinion that the subject proposal is consistent with the provincial planning statement and conforms to both the County of Middlesex and Thames Center official plans. During the circulation of the application, agency comments were received from the county engineer, the director of public works, the drainage superintendent, the chief building official, the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, and the Ministry of Transportation. These comments are included within the report. With respect to public comments, one public comment was received from Steve Fisher after the writing of this report, which was circulated to council ahead of the meeting. And Steve expressed concerns for the crematorium on agricultural lands and believes the use is better suited in an industrial area. So staff recommend that application for zoning bylaw amendment Z17-24 be approved and that the implementing bylaw be introduced in the bylaw portion of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. Is the applicant in the room and wishes to speak to this? Okay, all righty. Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public who might be in? Yes. Would you like to, we'll provide you with a mic here if you'd like to state your name and your property address.
Yep, so my name is Denise Galeja. I'm at 2512 Carmody Drive, so right next door. We just have a couple of questions. So under this A-67 zone, what else is classified under that?
Would you like to answer that, Alana? Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor McMillan. So all the other permitted uses in the agricultural A zone would still be permitted in addition to the small agricultural or small animal crematorium. So agricultural uses, a kennel subject criteria, a home occupation subject criteria. There's a range, but all the uses that are permitted today, as well as the small animal crematorium. Thank you.
And then my other question was, so I think maybe you said it, but is there going to be clients and clientele coming in and out of that property?
I think the applicant's indicating that he can answer that question. Do you want to go ahead?
Should I turn and look or just speak? Like, oh, sorry.
You can turn and look if you like.
I don't know. No, I've spoken to 3 veterinarian clinics in the immediate vicinity, Thorndale Animal Hospital, East Elgin, East Middlesex Animal Hospital down the road, and then Ostrander as well. And they would like me to come to them directly to pick up, and then return back to my facility. So please, or people don't need to come on and off of my facility, except for me. Thank you.
Not a driveway, right? Okay. I don't know if I can just make a comment as well, rather than a question.
Yes,
Okay.
you go
Um,
ahead.
This does go through and get approved. I'm just hoping that that sign can be moved because we're getting questions on our property.
People follow. I saw it. I will take it. Go to.
Okay. That answers all your questions then? Did the name, oh, you're good? Okay. All righty then. Anyone else with questions? Okay, so moving on then, Sarah or Mike, is anyone online who wants?
There's no one online, your worship.
Oh, okie dokie. So in that case, I'll turn it over to council if they have any questions. Councillor Lockheed, go ahead.
Through your worship, to the applicant. So kind of given the nature of this business, is there any risk that there may be any offensive aromas for neighboring properties?
Just one question for me. Are they, is the facility regularly inspected or is it once you have your license?
There's, I think I'm okay. Okay. Oh, it's not just for us. I feel like we're in, okay. It's can you ask the question again? I'm very nervous.
Oh, I just wondered if there are regular inspections.
Yeah, so they're, as Alana mentioned, there's a real-time monitoring computer set up to monitor emissions and the overall functionality of the machine. And that is that never shuts off. That all that data goes directly to the Ministry of Environment. If anything ever steps outside those bounds, everything shuts down and an alarm or an alert goes right directly to the Ministry of the Environment. So it's monitored 24 hours a day by them. The inspections come when I'm setting up the machine. So that inspection came, and then there was a secondary inspection that all passed through the Ministry of Environment as well. Yeah.
Thanks very much. Are there any other questions from the members of council?
So,
Oh,
I don't know if I
anything
answered that completely as well. So there's lots of inspections that have to happen. There was electrical inspections. TSSA also has to do their inspections. All of those pass. Everything's within the guidelines and the recommendations of TSSA as well.
Okay, thanks very much. So no other questions from council? Okay, so moving on then, if there's no further discussion, do I have a mover on the recommended motion as appended to the agenda to approve zoning bylaw amendment Z 17-24 and to introduce the implementing bylaw in the bylaw portion of this agenda? A mover and a second. Moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your appearance here tonight. Then the next item, 6.3, we will close the public meeting. Mover seconder that the planning public meeting adjourn at 5:21 p.m. in order to sit as the Committee of Adjustment under the Planning Act to consider minor variance application on the January 27th, 25 regular council agenda. Again, moved by Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Heyman. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, Committee of Adjustment, item number 7 on your agenda. 7.1, a minor variance application, A11-24, Kilburn Estates Limited applicant, Brown Beatty O'Donovan LLP, care of Stephen Carnero Fernandez as the agent. Property address is 22697 and 22649 Missouri Road. Overview by Alana. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So the purpose and effect of this application is to seek relief from the Thames Center zoning bylaw as it relates to the minimum lot area and minimum frontage requirements of the agricultural A zone and the minimum setback requirements from the center line of construction of a county road, being County Road 27, to fulfill a condition of consent related to consent application B7-2024. So the subject property is a 185-acre farm situated on the west side of Missouri Road, south of Plover Mills Road, and backing onto the Thames River. And the farm contains a single detached dwelling, a horse stable, and an office. So the lands are used for field crop cultivation as well as a horse farm, except for the portions of the property toward the back which contain woodlots. So as the committee may recall, this property is subject to consent application B7-2024, which was conditionally approved by the committee or council on June 24th, 2024. The application sought to sever a vacant parcel municipally known as 22649 Missouri Road, since the severed lands and retained lands municipally known as 22697 Missouri Road merged on title in 2012 due to common ownership. So the severed lands have a frontage of approximately 74 meters along Missouri Road and an area of approximately 0.43 acres, and it's intended that a dwelling is to be constructed on the severed lands. So as a condition of consent, the applicants are required to obtain a minor variance to address any lot deficiencies for the severed lot. So considering the severed lot does not meet the minimum frontage and minimum lot area requirements of the agricultural A zone, and based on the location of the proposed dwelling on the severed lands, the dwelling would not meet the minimum setback requirements from the center line of construction of County Road 27. Therefore, the applicants are seeking relief from these requirements. So as noted, the requested lot area is 0.43 hectares or 1.2 acres. and the required lot area is 40 hectares or 98.84 acres. And the requested lot frontage is 74 meters or 242.78 feet. And the required lot frontage is 150 meters or 492.13 feet. And then lastly, the required setback from, or the requested setback from the center line of County Road 27 is 31.3 meters, whereas the zoning bylaw requires a setback of 38 meters. So staff have evaluated the proposed variances against the 4 tests of under the Planning Act, and staff is of the opinion that although a reduced setback from the center line of County Road 27 may be supportable, the requested reduction to lot area and lot frontage would not be a suitable size for agricultural use, and therefore the variances are not considered minor in nature, do not represent an appropriate use of the land, do not meet the intent of the official plan, and do not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. So during the circulation of the notice of public hearing, agency comments were received from the Director of Public Works, the Drainage Superintendent, the Chief Building Official, and these comments are included within the report, and no public comments have been received to date. So staff recommend that minor variance application A11-24 be denied for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Is there any information available from them? Okay. And you're Mr. Fernandez, right? Yes.
May I kindly provide the counselors with some information? I have copies of the notice of decision as well as plans that were prepared in furtherance of the consent application. May I kindly approach the counselor on the left?
Certainly.
Good evening, counselors. Good evening, your worship. My name is Stephen Fernandez, and I act on behalf of the applicant. The applicant requests that council approves the minor variance application for 3 reasons. First, the variances are minor and reflect the historical use of the lands. Second, the variances are consistent with land use planning documents and the zoning bylaw. And third, the variance is consistent with the conclusions reached by this judicious council in the consent application of June 2024. I will provide some background. The minor variance is further to condition number 3 of a consent application that was accepted by the council as noted in this council's notice of decision. Consent for severance was needed because the retained and severed lots merged into one parcel. The severed lot was historically used for residential purposes. The applicant demonstrated and this council agreed that the consent application was consistent with land use planning documents for 3 reasons. First, the provincial planning statement provides that severance in prime agricultural areas may be permitted for legal or technical reasons. Second, the Ontario Land Tribunal decision in Prosecco, a 2023 decision, provides that merger is a legal and technical issue requiring correction. In fact, I quote, "There are instances where technical severances are required to correct an inadvertent merger of adjacent properties," end quote. Lastly, in addition, the house was built in the 1960s or 1970s. The severed lot was always used for residential purposes, and the house was only recently demolished in January 2023 due to the house being in poor condition. The applicant just wants to maintain the status quo, and the council reached the correct decision in the first course. The applicant has begun fulfilling conditions under this council's decision, including the requirement for an 18-meter setback, and has already incurred costs in the preparation of plans. This council requested appropriate conditions to strike a balance between private property rights and the public interests of the municipality. Turning to the minor variance, the legal test stems from Section 45 of the Planning Act and was considered in 2 Ontario Land Tribunal decisions of 2022. One case involves the City of Timmins and another case involves the City of Mississauga. The law runs deep and recourse must be made to case law. What is the first prong of the minor variance test? Does the variance fulfill the intent of planning documents? As noted, the applicant demonstrated and this council agreed that this is all consistent with land use planning documents, case law, and historical use. Principles of statutory interpretation, which are cited by the Supreme Court of Canada in Vavilov 2019, the highest court in this country, provide that words of law must be read based on their plain meaning. The provincial planning statement provides that the legislature does not want owners to be prejudiced by merger. The second prong of the test, does the variance maintain the general intent of the zoning bylaw? The variance was consistent with previous bylaws and is a legal non-conforming use. So the answer is yes. A legal non-conforming use is an existing use of land that does not conform to current zoning, but is permitted because it was lawful under previous zoning. The Superior Court's decision in Brampton, a 2023 decision, provides that legal non-conforming use status is preserved even though the house is demolished because the use of the land did not change, as this council decided in June 2024. The Superior Court's decision in Forbes, a 2021 decision, provides that any doubts regarding the requirements of legal non-conforming use should be resolved in favor of owners. The third prong of the test, is the variance desirable? Yes, according to this just council, the variance is desirable because it is a required step in furtherance of condition number 3 of the council's decision, and it respects private property rights and it preserves the historical use of the lands. What is the final prong of the test? Is the variance minor? Case law suggests that whether a variance is minor will depend on how the first 3 prongs of the legal test for minor variance are answered. In the present circumstances, the variance maintains the intention and purpose of relevant land use planning documents, is consistent with the zoning bylaw, and is desirable. As such, the variance is minor, and a zoning bylaw amendment would be inappropriate. In conclusion, as the applicant stated at the outset, the law runs deep, and we have referred to only a portion of applicable law in the interest of time, including case law from the highest court in this country. This overview demonstrates the wisdom of this council and the veracity of the decisions that you make, especially with this decision. You work hard, you deal with various matters with deep legal underpinnings, and you got it right the first time. As an aside, I never attended municipal meetings until I started acting for individuals in consent applications, and I must say, I have a greater appreciation for the work that you do and municipal processes in deciding these issues. I also like to extend my thanks to the planner and municipal staff for being respectful and courteous and polite to me and our staff and email correspondence. The applicant thanks this council for your service to this community. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Thank you. So at this point then, there's no one else in the room who wants to speak to this. And then Sarah, is there anyone online?
There's no one online,
also?
Your Worship.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So then, oh, I'm sorry. I missed you. Ray, sorry. Do you want to identify yourself and your property address, please?
Sure, with Steve here if I can. My name is Ray Chowan. Three generations sitting here. We are the next door owners of the neighboring owners, and I can talk for 75 years of experience being neighbors of that property through this. We're in the 6th owner now in that, so I have a little bit of background there. To the presenter of the background information, maybe I misunderstood. Did you tell us that there was one residence on the Kilburn property at this point?
That's correct. One single detached dwelling.
And an apartment in the separate building, right? Anyway, I thought that's what you said. I think that maybe could be verified. The second thing, I guess I come to that after 75 years and 6 owners and being a rural mentality, I was quite surprised that some of the Fari team had not approached us and had a little chat about what they wanted to do and what they were doing and in a neighborly way, but we haven't had any contact. And that's just a comment. That's not a question. It's just a comment. So just that, well, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chowan. Then if there's no one else, then I will turn it over to council if you have questions. Anyone from council? Councillor Lockie.
Yes, through your worship. So this isn't really a question, it's more just of a comment. So I do recall that when we did conditionally approve it back in June, That the reason being is because, you know, it doesn't really change it from really good active farmland to residential. And I know that's always been a concern for councils. We want to preserve our agricultural lands. And, you know, it's my understanding that in this case, we didn't think that was an issue, which is probably the main reason, which is the main reason why we chose to conditionally approve it. So it's, you know, my recommendation that we would do the same, stay consistent.
Okay. Before we call the vote, then any other comments from council? Yes. Okay. So we have, I'm sorry, did I miss your time? Okay.
Yeah, so just for a thought experiment, what would happen if we didn't request or denied this request?
Alana, can you answer that?
Through you, your worship. So a minor variance is a condition of consent. So all conditions need to be fulfilled in order for the severance to be finalized.
So it wouldn't, through your worship, it would not meet the conditions for granting the severance.
Correct.
Anything else?
No.
All right. On that basis, then is council prepared to vote? Okay. All right. So we have the decision before us. A mover and a seconder on the recommended motion to deny. Or the additional information provided by planning is to approve the application as it stands. Do I need? Deputy Mayor Smyber.
Yeah, I mean, without kind of, I guess, going back to the previous decision to approve, which was against staff, the recommendation that they gave to us. Then I guess this is why we should, you know, take staff's recommendation, you know, seriously, so that we don't kind of run into these situations. So, but I strongly believe that because when we approved the previous decision, it really kind of cuffs our hands a little bit, because if we've approved that, then obviously then I don't think that we have much choice but then to approve this application that's before us tonight. It sets an expectation, right? We said that we would approve the severance and along with those conditions, and I don't think it's fair that they come back now, right? They've applied and they've done the circulation, and I understand why staff's making the recommendation that they are. It's consistent with the first application. So I will, after all that, I will move that we approve the application.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Smybert. Anyone to second the motion? Councillor Lockie? Then all in favor? Okay, that's carried then. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Fernandez. All right, then, so 7.2 is an adjournment of the committee adjustment, a mover and a seconder, and the time is 5:38 p.m. Go ahead. Councillor Lockie, and the seconder, Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? All right, thank you. Item number 8 on your agenda is the adoption of the minutes. So a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of council held on January the 13th, 2025 be approved as circulated. Councillor Lockie and Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Consent agenda. Items listed under the consent agenda are received for information in one motion council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. And so a mover and a seconder that consent agenda item 11.1 be received as information. Excuse me. Deputy Mayor Smybert and seconded by Councillor Lockie. All in favor? The motion carries. Moving on to Middlesex, I'm sorry, reports of departments, Thames Center and annual highlights presented by the Chief Administrative Officer. Whenever you're ready, David.
That's great. Thank you, Mayor. So you have before you a copy of the draft 2024 Thames Center annual highlights. This is the second annual highlights report being brought forward. Last year, 2023 highlights being the first, which aligns with the term of council as well. So we're pleased to put together, and special thanks to Mike from our communications for doing the bulk of the preparing this document. But special thanks to staff as well for putting together contributions here, which are really led by council throughout the year of 2024, which talks about the collective achievements, accomplishments, approved plans, completed projects, etc., and is predominantly a communications tool in alignment with council's strategic plan for greater communications. So this is for information to receive and or amend or endorse. Once and if council is in alignment, we will be printing copies and distributing similar to last year, as well as various open houses and other events throughout the year. So happy to take any questions. Myself or other members of senior management team are here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Barrick. Any questions from council or any comments? No, we're pretty quiet tonight. All right then. A mover and a seconder then that report number CAO-001-25 be received for information. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Heeman. All in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so the next item, 10.2, the Shannon Drain request for improvement, and we'll call on Travis to present.
Through your worship. Good evening, councillors. Recently, the municipality has received a request to improve an existing municipal drain known as the Shannon Drain. The drain was originally constructed in 1917. It is in poor repair. It does go through a bush lot and is in some serious needs of some upgrading to service the upstream owners making this request. So approving this will allow an engineer to go forward and create a report to help the landowner gain an outlet again. And I'm going to leave it there and answer any questions that council may have.
Thanks, Travis. Any questions for Travis regarding this drain application? Okay, all right then. So if that's the case, then a mover and a seconder that report number PWDR-001-25 of the drainage superintendent dated January the 27th, 25, concerning a request received for drainage improvements be received for information, and that the request for improvements submitted under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for new drainage works in relation to the property located inside Concession 2 SRT South Part Lots A and B, former Township of North Dorchester, be received and adopted, and that Mr. DeVos from Spreet Associates be appointed as the engineer to investigate and prepare the necessary drainage report. Councillor Lockie and seconded by Deputy Mayor Smybert. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks very much, Travis. Quarterly departments, that would be general from any questions on any of these items on the quarterly reports. Deputy Mayor Smybert, go ahead.
Thank you. The first question deals with the building division fourth quarter report. I just wanted to know year over year between 2023 and 2024, What's the comparison on the building permits?
So later, sorry, through your worship, later in the annual building report, I can speak to those percentages and numbers more in depth for you if you don't mind.
Yep, that's no problem. So would that be in February then? That we'll
Actually,
get
it's
that?
on this meeting, the annual report.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
And I do have a couple more questions then.
Okay.
But not on your report. Thank you. It's on fire, actually. The false fire alarm. Seems like we get quite a few of those, or that's what it appeared on the monthly report. Is that something that we charge back for? I know that some municipalities do have a mechanism to do that. I mean, it's great that there wasn't an actual fire. I think that's what we all want to see, but I was just curious about any collection of charges with that.
Thank you through the mayor to the deputy mayor. Appreciate the question. Our fire chief isn't available this evening. He's actually checking out checking out the new purchase of the fire truck, the condition of it. So he's still on duty, but he's not here this evening. I'll take this question back to him. I believe the fire department does in certain instances, although we don't have a specific bylaw on it. So certainly some more work to do on that and clarification. When he's back, we'll try to get a more defined answer for you. Thank you.
I just had one other question as well for staff. In terms of the, we've opened up an office in Thorndale with respect to customer service inquiries. I just wanted to get a sense or an idea about the traffic that's coming into that facility.
Through you, your worship. Right now it's been pretty slow. She's not done a lot. We will be providing KPIs in our next quarterly report with some more solid numbers. As she was just getting herself set up there, we didn't feel it was very fair to do it till December. But she does regularly interact with the seniors up there and assists them quite often, and has been fairly active in renewing senior center memberships and things like that. It is getting busier. So we wanted to give her a little time to get herself set up in though before we provided them.
Okay, is that it then? Okay, so a mover and a seconder to accept the quarterly reports. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Lockie, all in favor? Thank you. The next item is 10.4, the Integrity Commissioner's Annual Report 2024, and we'll look to the clerk to present.
So through you, your worship, this is the first of the reports, first annual report we've had from the Integrity Commissioner. We think that it's very valuable to get a report from him annually. So it's just gives you the information on any information or any communications he's had with either with staff or the public through his duties. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Jenna. We've all had an opportunity to look through this. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Smybert.
So not necessarily a question, but more of a comment in that I really like this document. It provides a lot of transparency, I do believe. And so I hope that this is something that we can see every year.
Through you, your worship, this is actually part of the contract. It just previously wasn't requested. So the CIO and I went through the contract and decided that we would take advantage of it.
Good work, thanks. Anything else? No? Okay. A mover and a seconder to receive the report. Deputy Mayor Smybert. Councillor Lockie, all in favor? Okay, thank you. That motion carries. The PDS Building Division 2024 Annual Report. Who is doing this one? Oh, you are, Amanda. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. On behalf of the building division and chief building official Eric Goulard, I am presenting the annual building division report to be received for information.
The purpose of this report is to notify council and the public of the yearly activity for the Building Services Division. In comparison to 2023, Building Services has experienced an overall 12.6% decrease in the number of permits issued. And to speak to the question earlier, while we're on that percentage, so I did take a look at the 2023 number, and we issued 269 building permits. However, it is to note that we did receive 276 building permits this year. So those were reviewed, but just not followed through with. So numbers were there and similar, but just not issued. A couple of projects that get canceled that I intend to have on the next quarterly report, maybe a statistic on those that are canceled because of project cost and, just homeowners kind of not moving forward with their proposals. And then the next percentage statistic there was there's a 33% decrease in the number of inspections performed, a 25.4% decrease in value of construction, and an 8.1 decrease in permit fee collection. On the note of permit fee collection, I'll also add that we are due for a permit fee study in 2026. We will be signing contract, but we're just looking for quotes now. So that will be undertaken. And staff reviewed, as mentioned earlier, 276 permit submissions, with 235 being able to be issued during the year. 32 of the permits were issued for new residential dwellings. I just want to, I spoke to the chief building official, so just to further into that statistic, development for new homes, I had 4 townhouses, 5 additional residential units, 1 mobile home, and 22 single family dwellings. So just to further break that down in the next report to go forward. Additional information can be found below. There's a bit of that's been mentioned through the percentages. The total permit fee amount was $364,927. Also relays the construction value. Average permit time being 7.3 days. So development approvals are in place for further construction of new residential units. However, the market and momentum of construction is difficult to predict. And with that being said, a heightened concern resulting from the annual builders meeting was builders in the community addressed the increased development charges, with county and TC bringing it up to $54,000 roughly. So they're saying that those costs are impacting their proposed housing starts for their own businesses. Just to note. And then 2024, we had 1,115 inspections. Residential other was the 61%, is the greater value of most building permits, which includes things like decks, porches, pools, sunrooms, additions, accessory sheds. And here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Does anyone from council have questions on this report? Okay, seeing none, move her into, keeps sneaking her hand up there at the last minute.
Yeah. Through your worship, to the director of planning, just wondering if there's any options we have to explore that development charge concern, because I have seen us in comparison to neighboring municipalities, and it's more than double in some instances. And I know that costs went, like the construction CIP basket went up quite a bit during COVID, but those material costs have come down quite a bit, and I don't think that we've seen that in a deflationary construction basket indicator, or at least any decrease in our fees. And I think there's a large amount of this is related to interest rates and the overall economy, but I'm just wondering if there's any purpose in exploring that concern. And I know that we rely heavily on those fees for infrastructure and other services that we provide. So I don't take the matter lightly. I'm just wondering if there's any tools in our toolbox, if that was something that, or even to determine whether that is a valid concern.
Sure, through you, your worship, and Councillor Heeman and the rest of members of council, if you would wish to staff to undertake a review on what's possible to review the development charges, we can do that. I'm not sure the exact tool, but that's something we can look into.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor. It's typically done in the background study for development charges. Last one was, I believe, in 2021. So we could look at that again if we're due for another one. The basis behind is basically the projects that were considered the 2021 development charges background study fed into why the costs are what they are today. So things have changed, including better financial management and planning with respect to the asset management plan as well. So there may be an opportunity for council to consider another development charge background study that would assess and adjust the rates possibly as well. Hope that helps.
Deputy Mayor Smybury.
Well, I just made a comment that could almost do the opposite as well, right? When you go back and take a look at the background study, it could actually mean that we should be charging more in DCs. But I think on the flip side, though, again, I like what staff's doing currently in terms of trying to get funding dollars to help offset the cost to the municipality of some of those services. I think that's probably the way to get those costs down.
Anyone else? Councillor Heeman.
Would it be possible to get like a comparative study? And I know that we've done that with water and wastewater just to determine like where we are at with our peers. If that is the basis of the complaint, then at least we have some grounding in that reality or not.
Who would like to take the answer to this?
Thank you.
Okay.
We can do a comparative analysis of DC charges for starters, if that helps.
Would that be something like you do with the background study in future, or?
I think on the surface, through the mayor, just what do the other comparators charge? And if there's great disparities, then we'd be a drill down on what's behind it. And happy to present that information to council.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Heeman and Mr. Barrick. Just one question. Speaking of comparators, that's a significant amount of a drop in residential starts from 2020 to 2024. Do you have any idea whether other municipalities close by are not taking, of course, into this city of London? Are we just in a bit of a unique situation here, or do you know?
Through you, your worship, it's hard to predict where the community builders are at and what they're proposed to be building each year and how much they can afford to build each year. So I think that's where it lies. And just to be speaking back on the DCs, which was the main topic of our annual builders meeting, and cost of materials to build and the revenue generated from each house build, they're looking at less than 5 per year for the community builders. But that's just a speculation, and more so just them saying that, you know, the DCs are affecting their decisions, and that we are 10,000 more than we're the highest and 10,000 from the lower. And in addition, the county DCs also didn't help their mindset on that. But again, like we say, growth pays for growth. But we can definitely research a little more and see the comparators for the housing starts in other local municipalities as well.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Any other questions or comments from council? Well, in that particular case, then I'll ask for a mover and a seconder that the Building Division 2024 annual report be received for information. Councillor Lockie and Deputy Mayor Smybury. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Amanda. The 2025 Health and Safety Annual Policy Statement, and Mr. Barrick to present.
Great, thank you, Mayor. This report is before council to consider adoption of the Health and Safety Annual Policy Statement. So to be clear, it is something that the municipality has done. But in my experience, it's good to have it flagged for council annually in many organizations. And I think even previously here at Tem Center, it used to come forward to council for approval every January. So we're kind of bringing that back. The legislation does require it to be reviewed and approved annually. And so having it come to the council table on an annual basis does ensure that we're meeting legislative requirements as well as for your awareness. So it is standard, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you. So, all right. In that particular case, that a mover and a seconder that report number CAO-002-25 be received for information, and that the 2025 Health and Safety Policy Statement as attached be adopted. Councillor Lockie and Councillor Heeman, all in favor? Motion carries. Thanks. Okay, moving on to item number 11, reports of committees. Items listed under the reports of committees are approved by council in one motion. Council members may request that one or more items be separated for further action. So the motion is that reports of committees agenda items 13.1 be approved as presented. Councillor Lockie and Councillor, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Smybert, all in favor? Thank you, that carries. All right, then. So we'll move on to any unfinished business today. So, any unfinished business? Okay, seeing none. Notices of motion. Would you like to speak to this one, Tom?
Yeah, I got a notice of motion. Sure. Yeah.
So Councillor Heeman handed in a notice of motion earlier today stating whereas U.S. President Trump has declared that Canada will be subject to 25% tariffs February 1st, and whereas the federal government is prorogued, and whereas the provincial government has announced an upcoming election, and whereas Tem Center businesses face uncertain economic conditions in the face of U.S. tariffs, now therefore be it resolved that Tem Center conduct a tariff impact survey of local businesses, and that Tem Center Economic Development Committee be requested to conduct an impact open house. Be it further resolved that council direct staff to prepare communication plans, and that the County of Middlesex Economic Development be requested to supply businesses with an up-to-date program information and convey tariff impacts to appropriate provincial and federal ministries.
Thank you, Jana. Any discussion on this notice of motion from? Oh, I'm sorry. Right, Tom.
Yeah, I think this you can make an argument for this to wait, and you can make an argument for this to be urgent, because by the time the tariffs are in place, then we want to have a plan of action. So I would put the motion forward for it to be discussed tonight, but I have no real bias in terms of whether it goes forward or not.
Thank you. Any discussion on this matter from the members of council? Deputy Mayor Smybert?
Yeah, so I understand being prepared. I still think that the next meeting, I think we're okay to wait until then, because there'll be more certainty, I think, with respect to which way President Trump will be going with the tariffs, because I think there's been a lot of speculation. We just don't know exactly when that will land and how it's going to land.
Danielle, a comment?
Yeah, through your worship, I think it may be beneficial to also kind of coordinate with the county, because I'm pretty sure that Kara's department is probably on top of this as well. And it may make sense to have our actions consistent with what other municipalities within the county are doing. It may help data collection.
Thank you. I tend to agree with this because whether February 1st is a hard um, time to, is it a hard consideration or whether there will be further discussion. I also had the opportunity to speak to a business owner in a specialized sort of industry today, and they're between the devil and the deep blue sea as well as to just what impact this is going to be. So maybe in concert with our next meeting being in February, we might have a little bit more information. Plus, by that time too, we may have the opportunity to see what the county might be doing in this particular aspect. So if it's the will of council, we can put this over until the next 10th, the February 10th meeting. That would be acceptable to you, Councillor Heeman?
Yeah, I withdraw the
Okay,
the call to question.
all right then. So we'll move it to the next one. Thank you. So. Hi.
Oh, Your Worship, sorry.
Go
Could we
ahead.
also direct staff to consult with the county, with the Kara Finn's department to see what they're doing with respect to this?
So I think I did put wording in to coordinate with the county, but maybe knowing that this is on the agenda, maybe staff could get a pulse check from the county.
Staff is agreeable to that. Yep. And Michelle, did I see your,
Just gonna say, in concert with that, both yourself and myself can also speak with either the CAO or the Director of Economic Development as well.
and that's definitely something that's on my radar for the next county meeting. Okay. So okay, so item number 15, a mover and a seconder that bylaw 84-2024 be given third and final reading, and that bylaws 8-2025 through 14-2025 be read a first, second, and third time, and finally be adopted. A mover and a seconder. Councillor Heeman and Councillor Lockie. All in favor? Thank you. All right, now, at this time, council will be moving into closed session for which there will be no live streaming. The live stream will resume once the closed session portion has been completed. A mover to go into closed session, Councillor Lockie, and seconded by Councillor Heeman. All in favor? Thank you, that carries. We'll take a short break and be right back. Returning to open session, I advise that the council provided directions to staff regarding a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the municipal or local board. We'll move on to the confirmatory bylaw, a mover and a seconder, that bylaw 15-2025 being the confirmatory bylaw be read a first, second, and third and final time and be adopted. A mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Smybert and Councillor Lockie, all in favor? That motion carries. Thank you. Meeting schedules going forward. The next meeting of council is Monday, February the 10th, 2025 at 5 p.m. and Monday, February the 24th at 2025 at also at 5 p.m. So at this point, I'll call for an adjournment, a mover and a seconder. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Smymer and Councilor Healy, and all in favor. Thank you. The motion's carried.